make sure you get the right talk this time.
I'm clicking Kai.
Hey, Kai.
Kai's calling in from Israel. Pronouns are he, him, and has a question about atheists and morality. So, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you guys?
Doing good. You've got 1 minute. This is my favorite topic. So
it says here that your question is, how can an atheist with no objective morals claim that something is immoral? And my answer is the same way everybody else can, because none of them have objective morals either. In any sense, there's no objection to my moral system that is fixed by being a theist or appealing to anything else. Right. So I'm appealing to my sense of morality in the same way that everybody else is.
And objective moral values is an oxymoron. First of all, objective is going to mean outside of a mind. That includes God's mind, by the way. Must exist outside of a mind. So something we can measure, something we can weigh, something along those lines. It's something that exists outside of a mind. Value is an opinion of worth. It's literally in the dictionary. So a value is an opinion. That means it exists entirely inside the mind. So you can't say use value and objective at the same time. And then when you say morals, you're talking about an opinion of a moral actor's action. And so again, you have an opinion. Opinions only live in minds. So again, putting objective, moral, and value together is an oxymoron by definition. Does that answer your question?
My second, it's a shame I don't have enough time, but my second question that follows that is, then if according to the worldview of the atheist, there is no objective morality, why should I care about your subjective morality, especially if it doesn't benefit my needs?
Sure.
Because,
so, no, hang on. I got to get to it. Don't add anything else. We'll just start with that, and then we'll let you add something on afterwards. So your question is that why should you care about what my view of morality is, especially if it doesn't benefit your needs? Okay. But you started with, if the atheist view is that there's no objective morality. First of all, we're not presenting the atheist view. This is our perspective. There are plenty of people who think that they can reach objective morality. They're all wrong. But there are plenty of people, including atheists, who think they can reach that. So we're not speaking for all of them, other than for me saying that all of them are wrong. The reason you should care about anybody else's subjective view of morality is because that's how they're going to act. We are all going to act in accordance with what we believe to be moral, or if we act in violation of our own morality, you can point that out. The reason to care about somebody else's morality is their moral perspective more accurate than your own? Because I think we both agree that it's entirely possible, Kai, that you're wrong about some moral question and that I'm wrong about some moral question, right?
We both have different views of morality, I guess.
Sure, and where our views come in conflict, where our views come in conflict, at least one of us is wrong.
What are you saying?
Where your view of morality and mine are in conflict, at least one of us is wrong. We could both be wrong, but at least one of us is.
What I'm saying is, to begin with, we have I'm a Christian, so Christians to begin with have different views of morality than atheists who have subjective moralities.
I understand that. Atheists don't necessarily have what they think are subjective morals. That has nothing to do with the question I'm asking. Kai, if you have one moral opinion about something and I have a different one, now they're in conflict. If there is, in fact, some right answer or some preferred answer, at least one of us is wrong, correct, right?
I mean, if they're both subjective, how can they be wrong?
I'm saying I just included, because I just included that if one of them is preferable to another. Like, for example, do you care about the well-being of thinking creatures?
I do, but someone else might not.
Why do you keep fucking adding stuff that isn't the answer to my goddamn question, Kai? Do you care about the well-being of thinking creatures?
Overall, yes, I would say.
Me too. And so there's something that we agree on. Now, do you think that the well-being of thinking creatures is a moral issue?
If we decide it is, then it is.
Okay, then I have nothing more to add. I have nothing to tell you, because if I'm going to have a conversation about morality, I don't want somebody who's going to dodge and try to no, you're fucking dodging, Kai. You wanted to add stuff and you want to dodge stuff. I asked you, do you think the well-being of thinking creatures is a moral issue? Yes or no?
The answer is yes if we decide to.
No, it's not yes if, it's yes or no. Goodbye.
Right. Yeah, yes or no questions are not yes but or yes if. They're yes or no, and that's why we ask them. But yeah, and you and I disagreed that you say well-being, I say happiness.
Sure.
And we both have our different reasons for doing that. But yeah.
So here's the thing. For the rest of you who were following along and would like to engage honestly, if you care about the well-being of thinking creatures or the happiness of well-being or suffering or any of those things which are the sum total of everything we actually give a fuck about when we talk about morality. We're not talking about, oh, should I eat vanilla ice cream? We're talking about, does vanilla ice cream have an impact on the well-being of thinking creatures? Was this unethically sourced? Did we have slave children making this ice cream for me? Because that factors whether or not I should eat it. Am I diabetic? Yes, that factors whether or not I should eat it. Should I care about my health and well-being for the people around me and for myself? Those are questions. This is what morality is all about. Sam Harris and I may not agree on everything, but if you read his book, The Moral Landscape, while he is making a case that you cannot necessarily affirm is actually objective morality, what he's saying is that by and large, when human beings talk about morality, what they're actually talking about is how do we assess the consequences of our actions with respect to the goal of living a better life, healthier physically, mentally, emotionally, etc. The well-being of thinking creatures. That means that if you and I agree that that is a foundation of morality, whether you think it comes from a God or from the facts of reality, then at least we have agreement on that. And as soon as we have agreement on that, we can then begin to discuss how we're going to evaluate the actions we take to determine how they comport with the goals that we've set. We may disagree, we may have slightly different goals, but if we can work from the things that we agree on, it is absolutely trivial to develop a moral system that two people who maybe come from different backgrounds can agree on. The reason you should care about somebody else's subjective morality is because they are going to act in accordance with it. And where you come into conflict with them, either they're wrong and you need to convince them so that you don't necessarily wind up dead, or you're wrong and you need to have that discussion so you can stop being wrong. But the question is, how can it be wrong if it's subjective? It's not wrong. It is not wrong. The subjective issue doesn't make it not wrong. It is objective assessments with respect to a goal. The analogy that I've used for years is chess. The rules of chess were arbitrary. We made them up. The universe didn't dictate a necessity for chess, and neither did any God. We made it up. We changed those rules. But once the rules are established, we now have to determine what our goal is. And some people would say that the goal of a game of chess is to win. They're wrong. That's a fine goal, but the better goal is to not lose. Because a draw is an acceptable thing. It's better than losing. There are three options. You win, lose, or draw. And so if you make your goal not losing, now all of a sudden, instead of just focusing on winning, you may be able to focus to force a draw, but you have a goal. And because of that goal, while you may have opinions about which moves are better and which moves are worse, you can be wrong about which moves are actually better and actually worse, because the facts of the game and the goal of not losing dictate that there can be objective, non-subjective, non-independent assessments. If you sacrifice your queen and it leads to you losing the game, you made a bad move. Your opinion about what was strategically wise was incorrect. This is why I asked the question, can we get to something we agree on? Can we get to agreement that we're talking about well-being? Morality is not nearly as hard as people make it, but the fact is, and I wish we could have had this conversation, there is not a single objection that one can launch to the secular moral system that I'm advocating that is in any way solved by appealing to a God or a religion. Religions use conquest, coercion, conversion, conflict in order to convince you to buy into their particular model. My secular moral system, and that advocated by others, uses data, debate, discussion. Those sorts of things are how we learn rather than merely being compelled. It's about being convinced and not compelled. This is not all that difficult, and we're going to get the wrong answers on any number of things. But if every time we have a conversation about do we agree on it, we're pushed back with, well, yes, but, and yes, but, and yes, but. If you can't be honest with what you actually value, I don't want to talk to you. I'm not going to waste much time. I'll just cut you off. I'll give the sermon that I was destined to give by the laws of the universe from whence it began and time unwound in front that led to this moment, and then I'll have pizza.